So let's start. So basically, this is what are we going to learn today. Like, why are we going to references? Why it is needed, and then what is this the term called plagiarism? Um, and with some examples for the plagiarism, and what kind of information that you need to be referred in your writings, right? And some examples, and the problem for most of the people is what kind of a reference styles we use, and I'll be talking that too. And then at the end, I will just go through some examples of a most common type of reference style and how to use it. And then just a demonstration of how you can use the like software to do your references, right? So that's how things are organized. So in reference, when the term reference actually has two major components. The first one is we call the in-text citation, and the second one called the reference list, right? It's the combination of these two, the in-text citation, that's the short reference that you see in the text, like usually in the last name of the author, followed by the year of publication, right? So it's the in-text citation, then you will have a list of references at the end, right? So these two together we call as the referencing, right? Uh, and this citing references for any academic work is very important. There are many reasons, actually you can give hundreds of reasons why you should, but very basic things like why should we have references in the your scientific communication is that uh, because it's part of your communicating to acknowledge someone else's work, right? It's very important that you acknowledge the others who you have been using in your work, right? And the process we call citing is the acknowledging the other's work, right? So if you don't do that, and if you don't acknowledge that the information that you got is not from someone else's, then the readers will think that this is your own idea, and in such case we call the passing of this kind of information, that not your information, but if you pass it that information to the others as it's yours, then it's called a plagiarism, right? So this term plagiarism, that's how it came. And then now in a lot of universities, even this consider actually the plagiarism as one of the uh, main concerns, right? Sometimes you will get, even you can fail if someone caught with this plagiarism. And even in the scientific world, the plagiarism would be considered something serious offense, right? And and there are many reasons, as I mentioned before, why we should use the references. Um, and the first thing is just to show the others where you got that information from, right? Where do you got that information? Because you write a paper or thesis, and the second person or the reader, when they are reading, they want to know where did you got that information, who wrote that, right? And they might need to find out it's really true, or they want to get more information, then they have to go back to the original source where you got that information. So that's one of the things, right? um, the second thing is that really support your argument, right? In your discussion, you Right. Quickly go through one example in the how to use the APA style. Uh, right. Now again, keep in mind that the APA style is like there are about 300, 400 page big textbook. A lot of information about the writing in the APA style. It's about the papers, everything. It's not only the reference, but that mainly focus is about the in-text citation and list of references. How do they do? There are a lot of information on that, including the how to write the reference page. As you can see here, right, it is centered, not bold, uh, right, right, you can't change these things. If you use the APA style exactly, then you have to follow same thing, right. And you see the author names are in the reference list, so these are listed on the alphabetic order starting from A to Z. Like the first line, as you can see in the here, first line only is left indent, and everything else has to be uh, one tab. You have to write one tab right to the left line, right. There's a space here where very easily you can read the first author's name in this way, right. And this is the standard you have to use. And I have seen sometimes you do numbers as well, right. No numbering there in the, if you use the APA style, just the listing the author's last, first author's last name, you organize things, right. Um, now you have to invert the author's name because the last name come first, then the initial, not the first name, right. So that is very important. The, as you can see here in the example, and the last name and the initials, last name, initial. But sometimes some people, there may be some difference, but if you follow the APA style, this is the way to go, right. Now the important thing you have to recognize is whether it's a book, whether it's a journal, whether it's a web page, whether it's an electronic source, or whether it's a database, you have to determine whether what kind of source is it, and then only you have to follow. Like there are some examples given in the, and you have to exactly mirror or exactly copy or the use the same style that is mentioned in the example. So you have to just follow the example. Of course, maybe a little difficult always, but anyway, there is no option that you have to use this example. So very quickly we'll go through one example. Uh, so this is actually a fictional example. I will show you, just going to a paper, like it's a fictional paper, and I will show you how to put the references, right. So here, right, you see a mouse, you see a mice somewhere, which means I'm talking about that place, right. This is a typical one author in-text citation, right, a single author in-text citation. Is it the last name of the first author, comma, space, year of publication, close, that's it. I think there's a mistake here, space, there's no space, and that's the end of it, right. Right, that's now the mice is in the next reference. You see, Looney and Dow. There's a two author in-text citation, right? Two author in-text citation. Now you see that there's a N, but there's a ampersand. We call this a ampersand. It's not A and D, but you use the sign instead here. You see that difference here. I might here. You see, then the next thing, Wallace and Singer. Now here, it's mentioned as the A and D, that's the N, but instead in the previous one, you use the N sign. So what's the difference here, right? So keep in mind that this is the end of the paragraph. we use the close parenthesis, right? Use the close parenthesis. You usually use you write something at the end, use the in-text citation. In that case, you have to use this sign, the ampersand, right? But if the writing is part of the sentences like this, however, Wallace and Singer is a part of the sentence that you are like continuing, and in that case you use the end, right? So I hope you got that one. And the other one, uh, when there is more than one reference in the same parenthesis, like this is a close parenthesis, but there are three references here, right? Now here, if you follow the APA style, then you have to follow the same order as it is appear in the reference list. මෙතන තේරෙනවද කියන්නේ reference list එකේ අපි අර alphabetic order එකට හදන්නේ. So similarly, even here you have things in the alphabetic order, like F, G, K. Not the year, like 77, 6, it doesn't matter which year, but you follow the same order as it's appear in the reference list, right? That this may be different in some, I will give you example later, right? So that order is there. Now the second thing is, if there are more than one paper by the same author, right? By the same author, but same year, right? If the same author, same year have more than one paper, then like in-text citation, you can't differentiate this, which you are referring. And that case, you have to use a simple English letter like A or B, like same author. The first one we go the A, the second one we call the B, right? Like the same author, last name of the author and the same year. And so which one A, which one B is determined again by the title. Like if the title start from the A, we'll give the A, and if title B start with the letter one, then you will have give the B for that one, right? So that's how that appear, right? Now here you see the quotation mark. Uh, it again, that quotations are used only it is really necessary, otherwise you don't really use. But if you do, then you have to have the in-text citation. At the same time, you have to give the page number, right? And the other thing is, if there are more than three authors, like up to two authors, three authors, to 3 to 5 authors, then you, right, you have to give like 3 authors all the names for the first time, right? If it is 3 to 4 authors, 1 author, 2 authors, we have to give. If the 3 or plus, then for the first time you will mention it as the full names, last names of all the authors. But if you are using the same reference in the second time or thereafter, you say then Charles et al. Use the term et al. Thereafter. But first instance, you have to have the all 3 names. But if it is more than 5 names, then from the beginning you can say Charles et al. Instead, right? So that's the multiple authors, right? Now this is here another example. Scott, 1971, as cited in Moyer 19. So for example, the one that you have to have all your reference, like whatever the references, you have to have all these, the original source. Without original source, you can't refer, right? For example, in this case, the Scott is the original person who has the original idea, but it's been cited by the Moyer, right? Now you have the publication of Moyer, where he's talking about the Scott's publication, but you don't have the Scott publication. In that case, you will give your reference list as a Moyer, right? But it is mentioned like this: Scott 19 as cited in Moyer, because you have seen the Moyer's work, but not the Scott, but its original idea, right? So likewise, that's right here the et al. That's a ground rule. If it is more than 3, up to 5, first instance you use the all names, and thereafter et al. But if it is more than 5, then straight away last name of the first author et al. Right? What else? Here the reference list. As you can see, the centered reference list. There's no chapter number or anything. Just the references centered, and you will have the references in the alphabetic order, right? Right. There is no much, and you have to leave a space here, right? Here, if the same author has more than one publication same year, then you have the A and B, right? So that is already mentioned. Chronological orders has to be arranged, and then right, and reference list always use the ampersand, not use the and, right? Right. Right. So that's basically like different format for books and everything. Journal article. I'll share these things where you can go to. One thing I have to mention is the personal communications. That's not here. Let me see. You might have problem whether the personal communication, whether we can include it in the references. Yeah, you can actually include personal communications in your reference in the text, but you will never have the personal communications in the reference list, right? Like for example, someone well known, maybe a scientist, you can mention it as it's in the text, and you will put the name of the person. I have actually put the example, it's not here, but in the text somewhere you will see the, but since it's a personal communication, you won't be, no one will be able to trace it, and then therefore you won't be able to put it in the list of references, right? All right. There are, I have given a lot of examples here. At the same time, all these material actually already included in the classroom, where you can download the reference as well as the guides. My recommendation here with the problem you might have is the which format to be used. Now, if you are using APA style, that be really good because it's a very comprehensive. You can write any style in the APA style, but the problem is very complicated, and then I would recommend you to follow the NSF guidelines, right? I have already included that as the PDF document is already given. This one, this Journal of National Science Foundation. In that document, if you go down, there is a section on the references that will talk about how to put the references, right? It's bit similar to the APA style, but there are some differences. For example, the sequence of authors' names in the single same parenthesis, the order has to be on the chronological order, not from the alphabetic order, like which comes first. That's the basic difference I have seen. So I will recommend you all follow this NSA form, because it's a, like even the Vidyodaya Journal of Science use the same format, and then it's a one sort of a best thing to follow for the Sri Lankans. And Science Fund is one of the referred journals in the world. So you better follow this one. And all right. So if you have any questions, since we don't have time now, you can anytime you can send me questions. I think we have already 4 minutes fast actually. So if you have a quick question, someone, or otherwise I can hand over to the next presenter. That will be.
Sir, which type actually we prefer in our university?
That's the thing. There is no actually a standard a format for which style to be used, right? But my recommendation is just to follow the NSF, because even the graduate faculty, they're not really highlighting a particular format, but they have given some examples, not very comprehensive. But NSF format is pretty much close to the APA style as well. So you just follow this one. I have already actually given it in the classroom. So if you have any question with this, you can come back to me, right? Hope,
Okay,
yes, the time passed actually, so I can hand over to the next presenter. I think Dr. Chamar is still here.
Yeah, Dr. Antuma, thank you very much.
Yeah, okay.
Dr. Sumaya is also there, so thank you, Dr. Antuma.
Okay, thanks so much.
thank you, sir.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
All right,
Thank you, sir.
all right.
Dr. Sumaya,
Yes, Dr. Chamari.
yeah, you can start the session and then you can end the session as well.
Okay.
So I will put you as the host and then I will wait.
Okay, thank you.